Okay, I'm going to get into WiMAX and Wi-Fi and that kind of thing for the next group of slides here. First of all, WiMAX, which is a IEEE standard 802.16, comes in two flavors, fixed, nomadic, and mobile. The original concept was that fixed pneumatic would be used for point-to-multipoint to compete with DSL and cable, and mobile would be used for mobile to compete with EVDO and UMTS. The bottom line is that they are enough different that the industry, the WiMAX industry, decided that it didn't make much sense to support two different standards with two different sets of chips. So they've decided to support only mobile, but mobile can be used for point-to-point and point-to-multipoint. But by combining the demand for mobile, they think they'll drive the cost of the chips and the equipment down, and they're probably right. Intel is predicting by the end of 2008, 400 WiMAX deployments covering 150 million pops. By the end of 2010, 650 million pops. And by the end of 2012, 1.3 billion pops. Compare this to today's GSM says more than 2.5 billion. CDG, which is the CDMA group, says 450 million CDMA subscribers. And they're not pops covered, they're actual paying subscribers. Sprint and Clearwire have formed a joint venture for WiMAX deployment in the United States. There are a lot of politics coming from the computer industry about WiMAX, and without going into too much of it, here's a scenario for you. Intel and the internet folks said, wow, wireless is going to be important. So Intel looked around and they said, what can we make chips? Well, GSM, UMTS, there's already people who own that. There's already intellectual property. There's already that kind of stuff. CDMA, EVDO, that's already owned. Intellectual property there. What if we work with this emerging technology called WiMAX, which is supposed to be intellectual property free and royalty free, and we'll push that as the wireless technology of choice. So that's what they've done, and they are spending billions of dollars to make it successful. Some commercial operators, existing commercial operators, are a little concerned that WiMAX might compete with them. Intel's done a fairly good job of saying WiMAX is about the mobile internet, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, and our 3G network is about true mobility, and there's a difference. But WiMAX, built out at 2.5, has to compete with technologies that are already in the ground, they're already up, millions of voice and data customers, thousands of devices, and not only that, they're setting themselves up to compete with DSL, cable, and all the wireless providers. And you might say Wi-Fi. So, in the US at least, most of the 2.5 gigahertz spectrum is licensed between Sprint, Clearwire, and AT&T. There's not much left. Clearwire, you know, they went public. They earned, in their public offering, I think $1 billion. They just arranged for $1 billion loan. They've put up 28 markets, and they have 300,000 subscribers. Is there a winning bidder that wants to deploy WiMAX on AWS? We talked about that. Today's technology for WiMAX, it's not capable of doing it, but the future version of WiMAX would be. But it would be a one-off system on a one-off set of frequencies, and there wouldn't be any scale. Sprint says it's the wireless internet. It plans to have ultra-mobile devices, small little Intel processors with screens, bigger than a phone but pocketable, full and easy access to the internet just like we experience at home. However, they do have a very interesting business model that I think is going to catch on in wireless, and I agree with this business model. What they're saying is, because people are going to own more than one device on this network, we're going to have them subscribe to it by person, not by device. So if they subscribe by person and they use a ultra mobile device and then they have a Game Boy that's also on it, they'll buy the Game Boy, they'll go to the website, they'll sign up, and they won't pay any more. Because the theory is they're only going to be using one of these devices at a time. And it's not really a bad model, and they're also going to have a family plan like that. And I think there's a lot of merit to that.